We got special work to do here, you and me. You've got the body. I've got the brain.
We interrupt this program to bring you a special report.
This is Cheapseat Reviews.
We're Halloweenies.
She was slapping girls and yelling.
How about that bird exploding in midair?
Hello, and thank you for listening to Cheap Seat Reviews, the podcast that explores the Hollywood film industry for the greater good.
The greater good.
Not bad, I like it.
I don't know what that was.
Well, it's,
Wasn't anything special. I just
not
churched
sure
it
what
up
else
a
you
little
could
bit
have
for you.
done other than, whale noises in the background or something like that.
Yeah.
So that was fine. It was good.
Hi, Sean.
Hi, buddy. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right. They're good. I'm here. It's time to, record a show.
We're gonna do that?
I hope so, because
Okay.
I'm the tape is going, and
Hey, I'm all for it.
okay. I don't know what's happening right now. Okay, good. I'm all
Sorry, Sam's not here to interrupt you and distract you from the intro to the show, so I thought I'd give it a shot.
I appreciate that. That's good. I appreciate that. This is episode
Yes.
418, 418. And tonight we're talking about Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge. Right? That's what
Part
it's called.
2.
Freddy's Revenge, yeah. I am Sean Allred, and joining me tonight is Andrew. So this is the idea. Oh, excuse me. Andrew, this is where the idea for Angry Birds comes from. Jemison.
Hey, I don't know why this movie brought me back to middle school, but it did. I'm pretty sure it was the discussion of wet dreams, but I'm sure we'll talk about that because that's one of the most thrilling parts of the movie.
I didn't capture that line, believe it or not. The wet dream part.
No?
No.
Oh. I had a really awkward. You know how old people, and I say old people meaning old people like old people, but
Not
you
like
know
us.
how, no. You know how they just kind of say things. They tell you about their colonoscopy and all kinds of stuff you don't really want to know, right?
Yeah.
So the other day I'm talking with a retired fellow colleague of mine who starts to talk about nocturnal events, talking about his CPAP machine. And he said how many nocturnal events he had a night. So they put him on a CPAP. And I said, I had nocturnal events at one point in time, but it was more in middle school, and I don't get them anymore, unfortunately. So there you go. Thought I'd share that with you.
I appreciate that. That was
You're welcome.
That was lovely.
It's a little TMI, I get it, but you know what? We're Halloweenies, and we got to make this fun.
That's right. That's right. We are in the episode week 4 of Cheap Scare Reviews. This is great. Thank you for that scary story. No Sam tonight. Again, he's unavailable tonight. But joining us, making her triumphant return. I like to use that word triumphant. I don't know if that actually ever fits here. Making her
I'll take it.
victorious return. Actually, I think this is probably the most scheduled return we've had in a long
Yes.
time. Is Llindsay. This movie gives new meaning to the phrase hot tub Washburn.
I'm very happy to be back after our first discussion, where it was your guys' first time watching Nightmare on Elm Street, correct?
Yes.
That's right. So I was glad to be here for your introduction to the franchise, and can't wait to continue this journey with you.
Oh yeah, I think I posted on Twitter that you're gonna be our. We're doing
Yes.
the entire franchise with you.
I'm your guide.
Yeah, you will be our guide, and I'm here for it. You're gonna hold our hands.
Hmm.
with the sharp blades, and we're gonna be good. So I'm all for it. So, but before we get on to the other nightmares, we must first soldier our way through Nightmare on Elm Street 2: Freddy's Revenge.
Yes.
And as when we get to third and fourth and fifth ones and whatever, because there's like 9 or something, right? There's a bunch. I don't know. 6?
I think 6.
Okay.
I might be missing one, but I'm not sure.
I don't know. We'll find out later. We'll have our crack research team get on that.
Mm-hmm.
But it'll be interesting to see kind of how they rank amongst each other. So right now I only have the first one to compare to this one.
Mm-hmm.
And we will talk about how they compare in just a little bit. But first, Andrew is here to read us very eloquently what this movie is, according to some source, usually IMDb.
A teenage boy is haunted in his dreams by a deceased child murderer, Freddy Krueger, who is out to possess him in order to continue his reign of terror in the real world. That's pretty good, I think.
Yeah.
Right?
I think that actually...
Usually we read these and I'm like, it's kind of crappy.
Yeah.
But this fits the movie.
That actually kind of works.
It does.
I think it helps that because the plot itself is pretty simple.
Uh-huh.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a pretty basic plot, so I think that works. By the way, Andrew, I noticed that you're drinking out of your Cheapseat Reviews mug there. What you drinking?
Yeah, this is a little decaf.
Nice.
Yeah.
Is it cold where you are?
It's chilly-ish.
Yeah. All
Yeah.
right. I was just curious. I know people listening don't really care about the weather, but it was just an opportunity for me to say Cheapseat Reviews mug, and that you can go
Yes.
buy
Yeah.
one at our website on our store.
They keep your beverage nice and toasty
Yeah.
for a little while.
Yeah.
But that's any coffee mug.
Sure.
True.
Yeah. Just ours happens to have a cool chair on the front.
Mhm.
I'm drinking out of my usual Mega Man stickered thing. Anyway, again,
Yeah.
no one.
I really like the horror design chair that you've got
Yeah?
up for this episode. If you made a coffee mug with that on it, I would definitely
Yeah.
buy that.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
good to
so
know.
listeners, if you haven't seen this, you should check out
It's pretty cool.
check out our Instagram and our Twitter and all the places that we are, and check out this design that Sam made. Am I correct in saying he used the AI to create this?
Yeah, this was one of those AI generated things, and he
Yeah.
used key phrases like winged high back brown winged back chair, Freddy Krueger, horror, and it just spit out this beautiful horror
Mhm.
chair. I
It's
mean,
perfect. It's perfect.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
so good.
it might just be the primary logo we use during Halloween, or really anytime we're gonna break out a horror film. It just might be the default, logo. It's pretty great. I
It
I
is.
kind of do want to put that in the store as an option.
Oh, do.
Yeah,
I think people would dig it.
I do too. I think that would make a good shirt. So go to our store on TeePublic and support us financially there. Actually, well, by the time this airs, the sale will be closed. But everything's on sale right now, but that doesn't help you as a listener. But I don't know. Maybe by the time you listen to this, it'll have been enough weeks or enough days to go by. The store will be back on sale. All right. Enough of that nonsense. So, again, Nightmare on Elm Street 2. This sequel to the first, obviously, starring Robert Englund, right? England?
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
I don't know why I always because it's the Lund instead of
Yeah.
And. I still feel weird. Starring Robert Englund as, of course, Freddy Krueger, and a bunch of other people that I don't know. Directed by Jack Shoulder, written by Wes Craven and whatnot. And this director, Jack Shoulder, has done some things.
Mhm.
He's not doing anything anymore, but he's done mostly, it looks like, some kind of, TV horror movies. He did The Omen in 95, and he did something called Runaway Car in 97. He did an episode of Tales of the Crypt. He did a movie called Alone in the Dark before this, which looks like a few dangerous and delusional mental patients break out of a mental asylum during a power blackout and lay siege to their new doctor's house, who they believed killed their previous doctor. Interesting.
Okay.
Interesting. Jack Palance is in it. Martin Landau.
Oh my.
Okay. And anyway, so my point is that he's, this guy's done some stuff. He directed an episode of Tremors, the TV show, not the movie. And he also directed an episode of Mortal Kombat. I didn't know there was a TV show called Mortal Kombat Conquest. That's kind of fun. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not the full version. It's just the mobile version.
Yeah. Anyway, this movie, yeah, I'm really interested to talk about this movie because, well, I have strange opinions about it. We'll get into it. So let's start off with our 5-word review. Andrew, I'll let you go first.
Okay. 5-word review. Hot and wet, awkward kissing. Why is it so hot? Why is it so wet? Everything in this movie is hot and wet.
It is.
Yeah. And awkward. Right? We got the awkward kiss between Lisa and Jesse. And then we got the awkward kiss between Lisa and Freddy, who is actually Jesse.
Mm-hmm.
Spoiler. But there's so much awkward kissing in this movie. I was uncomfortable watching this. But you know what? You're probably going to find this weird. I like this movie better than the first one.
Okay.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
That's fine. It's fine.
Yeah. I don't know why, but I was more interested in this one. And maybe it's because I cared about the character a little of Freddy, not really the other two. I found Jesse a little, I don't know. He was Luke Skywalker-y to me. He was kind of whiny and, but is it a complex story? No, not at all. But it's a fun little watch. I had a good time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Neat. All right. All right, Llindsay, what you got?
My 5-word synopsis is the first queer horror movie.
Interesting. So I was just reading about that on the IMDb in the trivia, how Mark Patton, who is the actor that plays Jesse, is openly gay. And
now, yes.
Yeah, now, yeah. But he
not when this was made.
No.
But he stated, or according to an interview or thing that I read, that he said that he played the character as if he were closeted gay.
Oh.
Well, and also it's written this way too. It's written to have homosexual subtext, and a lot of people say it's a little more than subtext. But yeah, it was written that way, and he acted out what the character was.
Yeah.
We do kind of get a S&M moment with the coach in the bathroom.
Yeah, not kinda.
Not kinda.
Yeah. We get full on man butt there.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
With some slapping. I mean, it was very strange that it was towel slapping was his torture.
Wasn't it though? Like that's
so strange to me.
Yeah. I feel that's how you bully a kid in middle school
exactly.
Or something.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Which maybe that's the point. Maybe that's
they
were trying to bully the coach.
Yeah. I mean, and I think you're right. I think that was the point, but it just was so strange. And that it was hitting him hard enough to not only leave marks, but to cut him,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was so
Just
strange.
have this red ass.
Yeah. Yeah. But that actor took it, man. He took it. He did his job. I'm trying to find him here. Coach Marshall Bell, Coach Schneider. I've seen him in
We
other
know him
things.
from yeah.
He's been in a lot of
him.
stuff. The one that sticks out to me is, oh God, I can't even think of it. I'm blanking on the name. It's
Total Recall?
Stand By Me. He plays the
Stand-
dad. He plays Gordy's dad in Stand By Me.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and he's
Total
Quado.
Recall, but there's something else that we know him from.
We saw him in. Did we do Starship Troopers? I can't remember. But he's in Starship Troopers.
Mhm.
He's the guy. He's the general that they rescue who screams and then eventually gets his brain sucked out by the bug.
Mhm. Yeah, maybe that's what I'm thinking of because I know I've seen him in a military type role.
Let's go through his thing here. So, he was in Dick Tracy.
Was he?
He was Lips Cop.
Okay.
What he's
Man,
in.
that's a movie I haven't seen in a real long time that I need to revisit.
Yeah, well, go watch it and then listen to our review of it. It was a good time.
Yes, I will.
It was a good time. I'm trying to think of someone else. He's X-Files. He was in The Chase. Is that? Yeah, it's that. The Chase. That Charlie Sheen, Christy
Oh my
Swanson
God.
film.
Oh, that's
film.
right.
Let's
Yeah.
see. He was in
I remember that
Airheads,
one.
Natural Born Killers. The Pretender, The Brave, Starship Troopers.
He's been in a lot of stuff.
Yeah, he has
a
been in a
lot of stuff.
He's just one of those actors that just, he's never going to be the lead. He's good at being what he needs to be.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Rescue Dawn as an admiral.
I think maybe I'm thinking of him from either Total Recall or Starship Troopers.
Sure,
That's where I remember.
that makes sense. Oh, he was in an episode of The Newsroom. Oh, sorry. That's one of those shows that I watch every year. So anyway, you're right. He's done a lot. He's still working.
Mhm.
Let's see. He's got 3 things that are in post-production right now. Oh, he's got something in pre-production too. So, good for him. The
Wow.
guy's still working.
Yeah.
Born in 1942, so he's
Wow.
he's like 5 years older than my dad.
That's crazy.
Yeah, well, good for him. Keep on doing your thing. So, anyway, yeah, the coach, boy. And there was some other kind of, I'm trying to think. You could say, talking about, some of the kind of homoerotic scenes in the movie,
Mhm.
besides just the S&M part, you also had,
Yeah.
so the relationship between him and the dude, the other guy,
Mhm.
I was kind
Brady.
of confused because, like,
Yeah.
at the beginning of the movie, they're fighting, and he's like,
Yes.
he pantses him,
Mhm.
so, like, we get some more man ass in that shot.
Yeah.
And then, like, later in the movie, they're pals,
Yeah.
right?
Well, I mean, you remember being in high school. People pants each other. They're friends.
Mhm.
You fought with your friends.
I never fought with any of my friends like that.
Oh.
No, like, no. I mean, Chris Manley, who is, people of the show know him. Some of my friends on the podcast know him. He was my best friend in high school and middle school, and we wrestled, but
Right.
we never once fought. This was a fight. Like, they were.
Was it though? I mean, they were
Well,
just kind of rolling around on the grass
It looked like a fight. They were
with
bleeding.
pants down.
And it's purposeful too. I mean, that's where that subtext comes in, because there's that one scene where Jesse literally runs from Lisa and goes to what's his name? What's the friend's name? Grady's
Ron
bedroom.
Ron
Yeah.
Grady, yeah.
And they have that conversation, and he's like, you need help, you want help, you have a female in a cabana waiting for you, and you're running to me, and you want me.
Yeah.
There's that whole scene, and it's just
Yeah.
a lot of people that's one of the scenes a lot of people point to when talking about the subtext.
Interesting. Okay. Well,
But Andrew, I'm very curious as to you liking this one over the first one.
Yeah, I don't really know. I think maybe just the story to me was a little better, even
Yeah.
though it's just a simple story.
Mhm.
Maybe it's being honestly, maybe it was because we were outside in the world a little bit more and not just locked in the house. There were some things though about the movie that I didn't understand, like There's one scene where he's just wearing scrubs for some reason. Like he's wearing a blue scrub shirt. Was that a thing in the 80s?
I
Did
have
people just
no idea.
wear scrubs? And then the scene where Lisa goes to find him. How does she know to go to this factory? Like,
Well,
She went to the library or something, or read some story, something like that.
at the end, talking about at the end.
yeah.
Well, they went there
Oh.
together. Remember, like they went there together to
Mhm.
try to channel something, the energy of Freddy, and they walked
If
around.
you could feel some connection there.
Yeah, because she
Okay.
did the research and found out that that's where he was murdered or whatever, was at the
Right.
factory.
Mhm.
But
But I mean, even though they had that, I don't. If it were me in that position, I would not have known to go there to look for him.
well, I don't know.
I don't know. I felt like it was a little convenient.
It
but-
was, but I'm more confused about the face dog things. Like the
Those things
Yeah.
are so weird looking. I don't know why they're there.
I don't know what they are. Like
Those poor dogs. I mean, it's clearly just some Rottweilers with.
These weird
face
baby face
Yeah.
things. Oh, it's so creepy looking. Yeah,
yeah,
there's no point to those.
it's very weird. It's really weird. And again, like, what was the purpose? What was the point? And they like
Mhm.
it's not like. I mean, I understand when you have a sequel, there are certain rules that you have to follow from the first movie, and then you also want
Yeah.
to introduce some new things too. Otherwise,
Mhm.
it's boring. You have to have
Yeah.
something new. You have to have something, whatever. But like, all of a sudden, Freddy has pets, and
Yeah.
but they don't do
That's-
anything.
No, that's my biggest gripe against this movie is that the first one firmly established what the rules were. Don't fall asleep. He invades your dreams, and that's where his power lies. But he can be brought, into the real world in
Yeah.
a specific way. And in this one, it is different, and it seems like his powers when he does get to the real world are just he can do whatever.
Yeah,
There's no clear cut, like he's setting things on fire, the temperature's getting real hot, and there's no real reason, for why he uses each one.
Yeah, it's almost like they were saying, well, we do need to up the ante because this is the second one, and so
Yes.
we're going to give him some more powers and abilities that he
Mhm.
can control.
And it's like I understand why he has some of those abilities, like he was burned and set on fire, and he lives in a boiler. He's turning the heat up on everybody like they did on him, that kind of thing. But it's like just there was no rhyme or reason to some of the other stuff.
yeah. I was with you. I'm with you with the like the heat, like why the Jesse is always hot is because Freddy is somehow affecting the environment. Because like you said, because he was burned alive, so
Mhm.
therefore he's gonna make you hot, and
Mhm.
I'm all for that. And but you're right. Like the first one says, here are the rules. You fall asleep, things happen. Now, when you fall asleep, you die in the real life.
Yeah.
Before and I know I talked about it, but just in case people are listening to this one that didn't listen to that one, first of all, shame on you. Go listen to the first one. But secondly, my biggest misconception about that movie was that I always thought that he killed you in your dream, as
Yeah.
opposed to you fall asleep and then he has access to you, because he kills you in the real world. And all of the times, all of his victims were awake when he killed them. No one was asleep. No one, to use a bad expression, no one woke up dead. But you know what I'm saying. So,
Mhm.
Yeah.
whereas in this movie, all of his kills are
Awake,
awake,
yeah.
and there's actually not very many kills. There's only like 3
Yeah, there's not a lot.
in the movie, and some other things that are kind of different. I guess I'm kind of bouncing all over the place. But my point is that, like, you're right. The first movie says must be asleep. Sleep is bad. You die because of your whatever. And we get to, because you're asleep, we get to make some fun, weird, creative choices.
Mhm.
Like weird long arms and some other things like
Yeah.
that. But in this movie, because he's in the real world for a good amount of time, he's in the real world. We don't get any of that
Mhm.
weird kind of fantastical stuff. I mean, I guess boiling the pool is kind of fantastical, but
Yeah.
but
But
it's
really,
just
we get like the tongue. That's about all we get.
yeah,
That's exaggerated.
yeah. But otherwise, everything's pretty. It's just it might as well be Halloween. It's just a dude with some sharp gloves. You know what I'm saying? He's just a guy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We lose some of that. So I'll do my 5 word, and that is I gotta scroll back up to it. Hold on. It is it's actually only 4 words this time. So Andrew, you get to borrow one for next time.
Okay. I'm banking it.
Yeah, bank it. For a little credit there. Neat concept, poor execution.
Okay.
So I did not like this movie
Okay.
at all. I was bored. I was on my phone a little bit. I mentioned pre-show. I started just looking around at things that Andrew was going to come up with for the game. This movie didn't do anything for me. Again, the first one, I wasn't looking to be scared, right?
Mhm.
I didn't think that the first one or this one was going to actually scare me, but I
Right.
was looking for some really interesting, kind of fun horror elements.
Mhm.
And the first one did that. The first one really captured me with, hey, this is a low budget film, but we're going to do some really interesting stunts and tricks and whatever. And we're going to have blood pouring out of the bed. And we're going to have, Johnny Depp talking to his mom about porn or something. Like, we're going to have all these kind of weird things. And this movie it's just kind of a boring slasher movie with, a guy, again, no one's asleep. There's no weird. I mean, the coach getting whipped to death by towels was funny,
Mhm.
but the guy wasn't asleep. The coach wasn't
Right.
asleep. Jesse wasn't asleep.
Yeah, there
No.
were some moments in this one that it's hard to tell. I mean, you figure it out after watching it, but it's hard to tell. Are we in a dream sequence or are we awake? Like, is this real world or is
Yeah.
this? Which I think it's supposed to feel that way in some aspects, but yeah, like the scene with the coach that like you're talking about, it just doesn't make a lot of sense that nobody's asleep in this. I mean,
Yeah.
he's in the real
Mhm.
world. I guess he's more possessing Jesse at this point.
Yeah. It's a possession film.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean most of the really cool like practical effects and everything from the first one were taking those, bases of reality and making them dreamlike, when she's walking up the steps and it turns into oatmeal and stuff like that. And we didn't get a lot of that fun stuff in this movie.
Yeah. Which I think it's kind of a shame. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, and going forward, there's a return to that stuff. But I think any Nightmare on Elm Street movie is a little lacking without that element.
yeah. Well,
Because it's taking place in your nightmares, not reality. It's taking place in your nightmares.
because we already have those movies that are reality. You know what I'm saying? I mean, this came out in what is 85, 80 something, 80, 85. Yeah, I guess that's right. Wow. But I mean, at this point, we already had 2 Halloween movies. When did Friday the 13th come out?
80?
1980. So we've
Yeah.
already had, a couple of these movies, these kind of movies. So don't make another one. Is my point.
Yeah.
Make something.
They've been making another one for 40 years.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm sorry. Let me rephrase what I mean by don't make another one is don't make
know.
another Nightmare. I'm saying don't make
Yeah.
another one of those movies, right? Because
Mhm.
the only difference is that one guy uses a knife, one guy uses a machete, and Freddy has a glove with knives in it. If
Mhm.
that's the only difference, then it's who cares? But what made me like the first one is because it's crazy.
Mhm.
It's over the top, and I'm for it. Like, it almost had an Evil Dead vibe
Oh yeah.
because of the over the topness, which I like.
Mhm.
I think the reason that I like this one, and I've kind of already mentioned it, is I want to know Freddy's story. Like I want to see where he goes. And I think possibly that's why these movies are such a big thing and why there have been so many sequels, because it is his story really throughout all these movies, right? I mean, we're finding out more about him, and
Yeah.
maybe not as much in this one. We don't really find out about his past a little, but
Oh yeah, you find out things later on in the franchise. Whether or not you're
Yeah.
gonna like those things, that's a different
Right.
story.
Okay, that's interesting. That's a good tease. That's a good tease because I mean, and you're right, Andrew. Like these types of movies, it's all based on the bad guy. It's all based
Oh, yeah.
on
Well, that's the common denominator in all these movies is Freddy, because everything else kind of changes movie to movie. We go different locations, different characters. I mean, there's some that carry on and some that don't, but really the only horror franchises, or one of the big slasher franchises that doesn't follow bad guys, Scream, because they follow Sidney Prescott, and the killer changes each time.
Mhm.
But with Freddy, it's very much his franchise.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. Well, I mean, again, not knowing. I mean, because it is so like obviously like the Halloween franchise, the two characters is Michael
Mm-hmm.
and Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah.
I mean, is that similar to Jason, the Friday the 13th movies, or not?
No.
Okay.
Jason is the only thing the Friday the 13th movies are. Everything else is interchangeable. That and Camp Crystal Lake. Jason and Camp Crystal Lake. So
Okay.
I mean there's certain things, location and the monster or the creature or their weapon, certain things carry on throughout and just become signifiers for those horror characters.
All right. Interesting. We'll see.
So-
now I know.
Oh, sorry. Jump scares. Right?
Mm-hmm.
This movie had one. It wasn't really scary, but it had a pretty big one at the pool, right? At the party. I don't remember the first movie having a jump scare. Did it? Am I forgetting?
It had a couple.
Did it? This one, Freddy kind of jumps up while the kids are outside
Mhm.
through the floor
The
or
deck
through
of the
the
pool or whatever.
deck. Yeah, the deck of the pool. And so, other than that moment, this whole movie was just a suspense type movie. There wasn't. I mean, there were horror elements, like you're saying. Like,
Yeah.
he does pull the skin off and expose his brain at one point, and there, of course, there's killing and slashing and all that. But that was the only like scare, if you can even call it that. It wasn't really that scary, but.
Yeah.
I thought the grossest one was when after Freddy as Jessie bites her leg and she goes to the plant and she looks down and he's making her see bugs crawling in and out of it.
Yeah.
That was kind of creepy.
That was a good effect, and
Mm.
I kind of enjoyed that one. But no, you're right, Andrew. There's not a whole lot of jump scares. I mean, I think when Jesse goes to look downstairs and then he turns around and Freddy's right there, you get an attempted jump scare. But and probably in '85 that would have gotten you in the theater, but because we've seen that trope 150 times, we are used to it. Again, this is the first time that he and I have watched this. Andrew, this will be
Oh yeah.
going forward. This is the first time every time
Oh yeah.
for most of these. I mean, I think I'm trying to think, Andrew. The only this might not be a true statement, because if we ever do the Evil Dead franchise for the podcast, which that would be a fun trilogy to do, 1, 2, and 3 back to back to back.
Mhm.
Pick a month and just do that. For every other horror movie that we've watched, I will be new for me.
Mhm.
Oh wow.
Okay, I'm thinking some other ones that I've seen, because I've seen The Ring, The Grudge, and
Okay.
28 Days Later. And
Yeah, we have a fun story about that one.
which
At least
one?
I do. 28 Days Later.
What's your story?
Well, we were in college when we watched that. We were rooming together,
Yeah, I
right?
remember that,
And there
yeah.
was a bunch of us there in the apartment. and my wife, who was my fiance at the time, was over, and we were all sitting down to watch this together as a bunch of different couples and a bunch of people. And like 5 minutes into the movie, she was like, "We've got to go out of here. I can't watch this." So I never got to watch the movie.
Oh,
Oh no.
I don't remember that, but now that you say it, I kind of remember it a little bit. But yeah, that's too funny.
Yeah.
The only
I think we ended up watching 28 Days instead of 10 days later.
Nice. Yeah, I know I've told it on the podcast before, but the only real story from any kind of horror film I remember when my now wife, when we were dating in college, and I think you moved out at this point because this is apartment 4, but I lived in a townhome with 3 other guys, and it was a 2-story townhome, and I was on the bottom floor. So we go watch The Grudge, right? In a movie about the ghost and the kid and the cat and whatever, and so there's that cat that's scurrying in the attic, right? Which is what makes Sarah Michelle Gellar go upstairs in the first place, because she hears that scurrying, and then that's kind of when things kind of go downhill for her for that movie. But we get home that night, Sarah and I, and my roommate Chris, who I mentioned earlier, he had a black cat, and that cat was upstairs scurrying around. And I walked upstairs and I said, "Chris, you need to get your cat under control." And he says, "Why?" And I said, "Please, just get your cat under control, or I'm going to have to drown it in a bathtub." So, all right.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. Okay. So, all right. Sorry, I'm trying to collect my thoughts here, because
no, you're fine.
most of my notes are just, some of them are me asking questions like I do, and then other ones are just, things where I'm just kind of making fun of the movie. For example, when he falls asleep in class and he wakes up because there's a snake wrapped around him.
Yeah.
And then the teacher says, "Well, if you want to play with animals, you need to," I don't remember what he says. He says something stupid. Go
to the zoo.
Go to the zoo.
Go to the zoo, yeah.
It was a dumb line. But did they put the snake on him without the teacher seeing? Like, I don't understand.
I guess.
They had to, yeah.
How clueless is that teacher that someone got up, grabbed that big snake, and wrapped it around him? It annoyed me. All of the teachers in this movie suck, but that's just an 80s thing.
Right.
Especially gym teachers, right? Because we just watched Carrie a few weeks ago, and that gym teacher was she was slapping girls and yelling.
So, speaking of bad adults, Lisa, is it Lisa? Kim. Sorry, I keep calling her Lisa. It's Kim. Right?
That's the actress's name.
The actress's name, Kim.
The character's Lisa.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, so Lisa's parents, like, at the party, they go upstairs and they leave these kids alone, and, like, they start partying, which, it's fine, whatever. But then he comes out with a shotgun.
Yeah.
And he's standing 10 feet away from Freddy Krueger and misses. Like, this is the worst stormtrooper shot I've ever seen in my life.
Yes. Well, he had been drinking.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, that whole scene was really strange to me. Like, he's down there, like, they're all having a good time. He's grilling burgers for all of these kids, right?
Yeah.
And then the wife's like, "Hey, it's time to go upstairs and have sex like adults." And he's like, "Hey, kid who I don't know, you're in charge of the grill." I'm like, that's a lot of meat you just left on the grill to some stranger.
Yeah.
And so then they go upstairs and they have a little drinky drink, and I mean, it's clear what's about to happen, right? Like, the adults are going to have some sex, which good for them. Married couple, do your thing.
Yes.
So then the lights turn off and the kids are like, "Yeah, it's time to whatever." And so they get loud, and of course, the guy's like, "Whoa, what's going on outside?" And it was weird because their lights turned off, but when we go back and see them, their lights are still on in the bedroom. But whatever.
Oh.
But it's
you know what? You know how we know this is fiction? No dad would ever leave the grill and leave the meat in charge of someone else.
No, absolutely.
He'd have finished and went in, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
every dad would stand there and grill
I
all
don't
of that
care
meat
if-
until it's all cooked.
Would they still stand there if their wife was like, "Come on, let's go inside"?
Yeah,
Yes.
I'd be like, go ahead and get started. I have to put the grill away. Like,
Exactly. Like, we don't leave meat unattended.
No.
It's just-
just 5 more minutes. These burgers are almost done. Let me get them on a plate, and then I'm all yours. But
Oh god, that's so funny.
I mean, when we were celebrating Sean's 40th birthday, we almost killed him on the side of a mountain, and we were still worried about the burgers.
yeah, Lindsay, I literally fell. We grilled literally on
Oh
kind
my
of a side
God.
of a mountain, and I lost my footing and fell backwards. And I mean, I was bleeding everywhere. I mean, I had the spatula, right? Like, I flung the spatula, and we had to go find it with our cell phones because it was pretty dark. And
My
Andrew's
God.
like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Are the burgers good?" And he goes, "Yeah, the burgers are fine." And but yeah, I mean, I cut my hands up. I was bleeding all over. I had
Oh my gosh.
I tore my pants. I mean, I was in bad shape. So we go hobbling back inside, and of course the guys are like, "Hey, the burger's ready." And I'm like, "Yeah." And then they see I'm dripping blood in the hall, and they're like, "Are you okay?" Like, I need to get a first aid kit, but the burgers look great. So, but Andrew's not wrong. That is the first thing I asked: "Are the burgers okay?"
hmm
Because I was afraid that when I fell, because I knew I flung the spatula, I was putting the burgers on the tray. I was afraid that.
Oh, you went like this with the burgers?
Yeah, I was afraid like I had
Yeah.
like the tray, like if there's nothing worse than being injured and losing the food.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Speaking
think
of burnt meat, how about that bird exploding in midair?
Oh,
okay, so I took notes, and one of my notes is just birds, and I couldn't remember
Yeah.
why I wrote down birds, but now I'm remembering. Yeah.
That's
the-
another of his powers.
I mean, these birds. My great grandmother had a parakeet, and it was the sweetest little thing ever, except it was annoying when it would talk all the time. But these birds they're vicious. You never see vicious parakeets. At least, I mean, I don't know. I'm not a bird aficionado, but this was a little nuts. And then
Yeah.
it just exploding in midair like that.
It was Freddy making him do it.
yeah,
That's
I
what
don't
happens when
know.
That's what happens when you throw rice at weddings, by the way.
they explode. Yeah,
It's true.
yeah, it is true. They
Yeah.
yeah, I was a little confused. Like I'm okay with things are getting hot, which I thought was interesting that everyone like that the hot wasn't just just for Jesse, right? Like everyone
Mm-hmm.
was feeling the effects. So it kind of showed that his powers were in fact affecting the real world. But when the birds like so one of them immediately died, right? Or something.
Yeah, the one like attacked the other one and ripped its neck out.
Yeah, it turned evil, and then it started. It kind of made me laugh that like these people were very scared of this little bird, and I thought, how vicious could this little guy be? I mean,
He scratched Clue Gulager's cheek.
yeah, he
I was laughing at that point. I was like, this vicious bird has just give this guy a little nick on his cheek, and
yeah.
he's acting like it's running after him with a butcher knife.
Oh man.
But then the dad's reaction, it just again, 80s dad, right? They all suck. And
Uh-huh.
and he's like, you put an M80 inside the bird, like really?
How is that even possible to do that? Yeah,
Add a cherry bomb to it.
Like you put a cherry bomb with a fuse, 5 feet long, and shoved it down this bird. Like cherry bombs are
and
large.
it lived until it exploded.
Yeah, it lived long enough to fly around and then explode. I understand the dad is looking for a logical reason, but that's the worst logical reason ever. It just doesn't make any sense. Oh my gosh! But also when it exploded and the feathers floated down, it reminded me of that scene from Shrek when she's singing and she makes
She's
the
singing
bird.
and makes the bird.
It wasn't supposed to make me laugh, but it did. It made me laugh. Let's see. That literally was one of my notes. Oh my God, the bird exploded. That was funny. Let's see. selling beer to a high schooler at the S&M bar. I thought that was kind of funny. But, okay, again, the coach sucks. The coach is at the S&M bar. He sees him, but then he punishes him. I don't understand that.
He punishes him for being somewhere he shouldn't be, but
Yeah.
he takes the kid back to the school
Yeah, I don't.
to punish him after hours, which is
Which is
a little strange
a
and a
little
little
sus.
creepy.
Yeah.
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 But I would be more concerned that the kid is going to say, I saw Coach, whatever his name is, at the
Yeah.
S&M bar.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, like
I mean, people already say that about him,
Right.
but this would be confirmation.
Yeah, it seems like something where, and maybe we're in 2022 sensibilities, but if Andrew were there as a patron, and he saw one of his students walk in, Andrew's not gonna go up and greet them. He's gonna run the F away.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to pull the hoodie up and
Yeah, you're
put the hat down.
yeah, exactly. You're now again. 2022 sensibilities means that kid has a cell phone and can take pictures of you, but
Which is why I mean, I wore a mask for COVID, but at this point, I just wear it to hide from people.
yeah, no, I'm
It
with
is
you.
effective.
Yeah, of course, Llindsay, you have really long blonde hair. I think that kind of makes you.
It outs me quite often.
Yeah. All right. So again, last few notes I got before I play a few clips here. But you're not wrong. Again, the fact that he took him back to the high school was very weird to me. Even in the 80s, that seems strange. It would have made more sense had the coach taken him home.
Right.
Just, hey, I found your son at a place where he wasn't supposed to or whatever. But I know we needed to have the scene where he's attacked by all the gym equipment for some reason, which I did laugh because they had they had a bad camera angle on one of the tennis ball containers, and you could 100% see the hose that fired.
Pneumatic hose.
Yeah, you could totally see it.
So Sean, what was flying at the coach's face?
Tennis balls. Oh, damn it!
There was something.
Yeah, hold on. All right, set it up again.
Okay, all the stuff was flying in his face. What were these things? Balls. What were they? Check one. Balls.
There.
Yes. All those balls were flying at his
balls.
face. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
And the director claims to not have known or realized the overtones of this film while he was shooting it. He claims he has no idea. He had to scout a gay bar and all this stuff, and he claims he had no idea this subtext was in the film.
Interesting. Well, I mean, you don't know what you don't know, I guess.
That's very true. It is very true, and I mean, it was 1985, or probably 1984 when they shot it.
I've got a camera question.
Okay.
So some camera work at the beginning of the movie where the bus is off in the desert, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the earth is kind of falling away. Was it just me, or was there a scene where there was actual physical dirt, and then behind that dirt was a screen of them playing some footage of earth falling away, so it looked like the earth was falling down behind the stationary dirt in the foreground?
Oh, I didn't catch that.
I saw it and I thought, I wonder how they're doing that, because we can't CGI that at 1984 or 1985.
It was probably rear projection or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. So it was somewhere at the beginning of the movie. I saw it and I was just kind of intrigued by how it was done.
Yeah, there was some interesting miniature work in this movie too, with the underneath shots of the bus teetering on those rocks and stuff.
I will say this about that, and I know it's a dream sequence, but the most unbelievable part of that bus sequence was that when that bus first hit the dirt, I mean, that the rear of that bus flew up like 7 or 8 feet. I mean, that thing, like those kids would have had broken bones.
Yeah, there were no seat belts in buses. Are there even now?
No,
I have no idea.
They're still not. I don't think.
Oh my
There are in
gosh.
some, yeah.
Are there? I don't know. They
Yeah.
weren't in the 90s when I was riding the bus. I mean, that thing was going so fast when it hit those bumps. I mean, those kids would have had, like, they would have been, like, because the next shot, they're just still sitting there and the camera's just kind of bouncing. I'm like, no, that terrain,
way.
like, that thing is bouncing like crazy. They would have, arms, like, they'd be bleeding. I mean, it would be a nightmare. It would be like
And-
Harrison
Street.
Ford inside the refrigerator.
And I mean, I know that part's a dream sequence, but this is supposed to be in Indiana, and it's a desert with mountains. Like that, I haven't seen that in the Midwest.
Yeah. I mean, it's yeah, okay, you're right. Well, I mean, I haven't found. Okay, so okay, hold on, this is interesting. So I'm on the trivia page. I'm scrolling through. This one's really interesting. Wes Craven refused to work on this film because he never wanted or intended for there to be a sequel. And he also never wanted the first film to have a happy ending. He also didn't like the idea of Freddy manipulating the protagonist into committing murders. So there's that. So then I scrolled down a little bit here, and body count 10. 10 people die in this movie?
Yeah, he slashes through quite several at the pool
Oh,
party.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's just not. They just don't show it or showcase it very well.
Interesting.
Yeah. I forgot about that because I did write down on my notes that Lisa's parents better have a damn good insurance policy.
Okay,
All these people at their house.
so I don't know. This isn't a Hopping Man. And Lindsay, did we explain Hopping Man in the first time you're on? I don't remember.
No,
Hopping Man is
think
a
so.
cheap seat reviews trope that we invented, where if a movie introduces a character and then we don't have resolution of that character, it comes from the movie Dark Man, where there's a guy that has a machine gun for a leg, who we're introduced to, and then he just disappears and isn't in the final scenes of the movie. So because he was hopping, he's called the Hopping Man.
Okay.
So, and again, for those who are listening, new Hopping Man. So this isn't a Hopping Man. It's just just a plot hole. But Jesse is in the bedroom and he kills his friend with magic finger knives.
Yeah.
And then he escapes. But I mean that guy died. His friend died. But like there's no consequence for that.
No.
Like he murdered his friend. I'm just that seems strange. Like there are people dead, and there's an actual human person that they can kind of point to, but
Oh yeah.
you know
They
what I'm
just
saying?
they kind of ignore that. I think because at the end, I hate the ending of this movie. That's one of the things about this movie that I don't like. I don't like the ending of this movie that it's just like, oh no, Freddy isn't dead, and here's the dream sequence that you had in the first one. It's it's happening again. So sorry, I lost my train of thought there for a second. But sorry, I lost my train of thought.
It's fine. Don't
I
worry about
had a point, but it just escaped me.
it. It's all right.
Yeah, it goes back to Wes Craven not wanting that happy ending in the first one, and
Yes.
to make the sequels, and then just in this one we're just full on. There's gonna be more of these.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I'm frankly kind of looking forward to, because I mean they're kind of a beloved film franchise, and I don't know. I guess I'm interested to see what has got coming in store, because this movie. I mean, we're going to do rankings in a little bit, but I mean, IMDb has this thing at a 5.4. Excuse me.
Yeah, it's usually if you ask people like big Nightmare on Elm Street series fans, if you ask them which one they like the least, this one or Freddy's Dead, usually. So
Interesting.
this one usually ranks low on the list of rankings.
Okay.
Huh.
Well, it's interesting
For some people. For some people.
Yeah. So I'm looking at the poster here for this movie, and the poster kind of sucks. I'm just gonna be honest. So it shows him holding Lisa, and he's looking in the
Mhm.
mirror, and it shows half of his face, but then the other half isn't Freddy. It's like some weird skull
Mhm.
thing. And then the claw glove is like 5 times too big because it's like the size of her whole back. And then there's like some kind of giant raven in a thunderstorm cloud. Is that supposed to be our killer parakeet? I mean, what is happening?
Oh, it might be.
This which also the subtitle is Freddy's Revenge, but
Hmm.
this movie isn't about revenge. The first one's about revenge. This is about him trying to escape and
Yeah.
kind of come back. It should be Freddy's
It's his
return.
Yeah, it should
Yeah.
be returns.
Yeah, but I
Uh,
guess because we had Return of the Jedi 2 years earlier, maybe
Mhm.
they didn't
Oh,
want to use.
and I remembered my point that escaped me. It has come back around. That he has no consequences for his actions, and that's another reason why I hate that ending, is just because there's no resolution on that end. We just go back into the aping of the end of the first one.
Hmm.
Okay. Last thing here that I'm gonna say before we do some clips, and that is, he was killed by the power of love. Right? I mean, that's
Yeah.
kind of what it is. Which I know this movie came before this movie by like 10 years, but it just reminded me of Ernest Scared Stupid, in which, in order to kill the troll, you have to love the troll, and that's how it
Yeah.
dies. But
Yeah.
it's kind of
And there's people that lean more into the subtext and stuff like that. Look at this ending as, well, all you need to do is find yourself a nice girl, kind of a message in that ending. Because this whole thing is like a metaphor of him struggling with his own sexuality. Like, gay, is he straight? That kind of thing. And Freddy represents that more queer side and how he's taken over by that. But the love of a good woman, will make him whole again.
wow.
Yeah. It's deep, but it's there.
I mean, that just sounds like, I don't know what that sounds like. I know what I want to say, but I kind of don't want to say it. But I don't know. It just.
And I mean, these things have been confirmed by the actors, and I mean, even the writer himself has talked about this. So I mean, it's
Well, I mean, okay. So if the writer is saying that,
yeah.
then fine. But then to me, that just comes across as that the writer is homophobic. Like that. Just
I don't know. Some people would say that. I don't know. I don't know enough about it.
Sure.
To
Yeah.
say
You're
that,
kind of just telling me, you're giving me some context, and
Yeah.
I've done zero research on it. Again, we just watch the movie and then we talk
Mhm.
about it. Again, usually, what research we do is 10 minutes of me looking at the IMDb.
Yeah. Oh no, and
trivia
there's a
page.
great companion documentary to this movie called Scream Queen.
Yeah.
It's very interesting because it follows Mark Patton and his resurgence into public life. It's very interesting.
Cool. Yeah, I think I read something, and maybe that's where I was reading earlier when he talked about he played it as a closeted character. I think that was from that documentary. I don't know why that word was hard for me to say, but it yeah, I don't know. I just part of me says, if we have to be that deep in our horror slasher films, then I think we're doing it wrong. Like what makes Halloween work is because it's it's a simple story, and that's what makes it kind of scary, is because it's just a guy stabbing people, and you don't know who's going to get stabbed next. That's why I liked Halloween 2018 so much, is because of the pure chaotic violence that movie kind of
Oh yeah.
shows.
Well, I mean, that's why some people would consider slasher movies to be the most basic of horror movies.
Yeah.
Sometimes the most simple, I would say.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The most simple. And but I mean, there's so much horror out there that really does have, you know, counterculture messages to it, political messages to it, social satire messages to it. Like, I mean, John Carpenter is full of that. There's so much in there, and George Romero. There's a lot out there where there's a lot that's being said in some of the most interesting and creative ways. And this film certainly falls in line with that.
Yeah, that's a good point, and I hadn't really ever thought of it that way, and I think that's probably because we haven't seen those movies.
Exactly,
You know?
exactly. I mean, and but there's so much out there for that kind of stuff, and it does it where it's really firmly implanted in the story that's being told.
Cool. Well, I don't know. Like I said, I don't. I'm scrolling through my brain of the movies that we've watched for the podcast. Again, most of my horror experience has been for the podcast, with few exceptions, and most of those have always just kind of felt like we're just trying to tell a good horror story.
Oh
And,
yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like the ones that I like the most, like Train to Busan. There's no hidden text there. It's just a zombie film. It's just happens to be one of, well, and it's also a father-daughter story. Like that's the subplot is, you know, father-daughter thing. But you have to have the human element in order to care about the characters. And that's the thing also. I didn't kind of care that this kid lived or died. Because he kind of sucks. I mean, you said it earlier, Andrew. He's kind of whiny. And this movie once again does the thing where she's like, "I love you." I'm like, "What did he do to earn your love? Give you a ride to school?" Which is also confusing because it's not like she lives next door to him.
No, and she's super rich. Her family's super rich.
Yeah, so why does he give her a ride? Like, how did that arrangement start? Like, were they in class and go, "Hey, you live 4 blocks away from me. You want want a ride in my shit car? Okay, sure." Like, it just
that was kind of weird, especially because she is rich and she wants to ride with him in this old junky car.
Yeah, well, and she even says to her friend, because they jump to that scene where they're all on the recreational field and the girls are shooting arrows and the guys are doing baseball, whatever.
Gym class in the 80s. What the
yes.
F?
Let's give weapons to our teenagers.
No kidding.
And she's talking with her friend, with the curly black hair.
Yeah.
And she's like, "What's with that guy?" Because they're watching him play baseball. And she looks at her friend and says, "He's just my ride to school." And it's like, but then you guys are in a relationship. Didn't make sense
It was
to me.
very like
I don't know where the shift came. What made her fall in love all of a sudden?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Because like in high school, I gave my girlfriend a ride to school, and though when we broke up, I continued to give her a ride to school, which was a lot of fun, let me tell you. But but we had a relationship, you know. It was, and though, like and she also didn't live anywhere near me. It was completely out of the way for me to take her to and from school, but we did. Because again, when you're dating, that's fine. When you're not dating, it's less fun. But anyway, but yeah, it's just weird. And also, like the first time we see her at the beginning of the movie, she's like, "Don't you use a key?" It made it seem like this was the first time that she's ridden with him in the dinosaur, the deadly dinosaur. And that's just, oh, okay.
Well, I mean, it could be that this is his first day. This is his first day at school. They didn't really make that evident, but I mean, it kind of makes some things make sense. a little bit because they've moved into Nancy Thompson, is that her last name?
Sure.
From the first movie. They moved into
Yeah.
her house. They weren't able to sell it for 5 years because of what happened there. And
But they got a
rumor
great
is,
price.
yeah, because the rumor, there's no story of Freddy Krueger or anything like that. The remaining story is that there was a girl who lived there that went crazy after she saw her boyfriend get murdered across the street. So I mean, that's the story that's being told. And so
Well, yeah,
they move
they
into that house, and that's where the diary comes in, which I think is a really cool
Mhm.
aspect of the story, that they find her diary and that fills in some of their blanks.
Yeah, at the beginning of the movie, I was a little confused. Were they moving out or moving in? But yeah, because you see all the boxes and you see the U-Haul box and all this
Well,
stuff, and you're like,
the first
happening
line
here?
of dialogue that the dad says is, "I want you to empty all of your boxes or whatever. You need to clean your room."
Mhm.
Right.
So it's like, okay, well, he's still unpacking, but you're right.
Yeah.
He's been there what looks like only a week or two, and he's already made a female friend and offered to give her
Mhm.
a ride to school. I mean, good on him for moving fast, but again, their relationship just doesn't make sense. Because at the end of the movie, I love you. Why? What has he done to I mean, the one time where you get intimate, he leaves you. So for all you know, he's not into you. Like, you don't really know why
Yeah.
he just up and leaves. I mean, we know why as the audience, because he's having,
Sure.
possessions or whatever, and the weird tongue bit, which again, I read in the trivia, the director said that scene was so silly, he kept laughing during the take, so he made the assistant director shoot it because he couldn't do it.
Oh my gosh.
Well, we also had that tongue bit in the first movie, with
Yes.
the phone.
The phone.
Yeah.
And that comes back several times. His tongue is a thing.
Yeah, a lot of gross Freddy Krueger.
A lot of tongue. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. That's it. That's all I have. I'm gonna play some clips now. You ready for some clips?
Do it.
I don't have a lot. There's not a lot of interesting dialogue in my opinion in this movie, but that's okay. Number 1.
Mommy, why can't Jesse wake up like everybody else?
Oh, honey, he's all right. He's just having a bad dream.
I didn't realize how long that's a long scream.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
when you wake up from a nightmare, it's like a real quick,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not a
It's
long.
usually like a shock, not
Yeah.
horror.
All right, hold on. Now I'm curious. Let's give me a second to cue this up. All right, I wasn't prepared for this, but now that I've thought about it, I want to do it. Let's see. Do I have it? Give me a second. This is great podcast. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna cue this up now. Which one had the longer scream? This guy. So that's 4 full seconds. All right. Was it that scream or we summon the darkness scream? Okay, here we go.
Jesse's scream is longer.
It
Yeah,
is
his
longer.
is definitely longer.
It is longer. My audio file is 3 seconds. But yeah, we got. It trails off there, but that's 4 seconds of Jesse.
How could you hear your child scream in that manner and just be like,
Nah,
It's just a nightmare.
it's just a bad dream. I mean, how many times has he done this? And I mean,
Right.
again,
That's true.
how long have they lived in this house? So it's like, oh, here he goes again. Just because at night they
screaming
come.
bloody murder.
Because at night when he does it, they come running in.
Yeah.
So all right. Sorry. What makes that scream, Lindsay, so great is that the girl, which is Alexandra Daddario, who's screaming,
Uh-huh.
she is being thrown out a second-story window. She's only 10 feet off the ground and
Yeah.
makes that scream.
That's awesome.
Oh, I love it. Oh my gosh, it's great. Here's some really good banter.
So what about you and that rich baby you've been cruising to school with every day?
What about her?
Are you mounting her nightly or what?
You mounting her nightly. Good Lord. Oh, that's so bad.
Yeah.
Let's see. Here we go. The dad. This is 30 seconds, so it's kind of long, but I hate
The dad, Clu Gulager, is a great. He is a horror icon.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh,
He's
well.
been in a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Now you've got me. His name is Clu. CLU.
Yep.
Oh, he passed away.
Just recently.
Yeah,
just-
August 5th of this
Yeah.
year. Wow, he was 93. Good for him. Let's see. All right, so he has. Let's just do this real quick. I know people love it when I read IMDb pages. Here we go. Let's see. He was in something called Goodyear Playhouse. That sounds kind of fun. All right, Wanted Dead or Alive. Let's get into some movies here. Alfred Hitchcock Hour presents. He was in that. Let's see. The Killers, something called The Killers, The Virginian. Let's see, a lot of TV show. God, he's been in a lot of stuff.
A lot of stuff.
Mystery in Dracula's Castle, the TV movie. All right. He was in Kung Fu, the series. Ironside. There you go. He was in an episode of Shaft. Nice. I like somebody that's in Shaft. See, The Killer That Wouldn't Die. The Oregon Trail, the TV series. Did they make? Please tell me that's what the game's based off of.
Gotta be.
Right? He was in something called Chattanooga Choo Choo. See, still scrolling here. Return of the Living Dead. Oh, okay. Here we go. So now we're getting into it. So Return of the Living Dead, and then Nightmare on Elm Street 2. And then a bunch of TV stuff. Hunter's Blood, Summer Heat, The Hidden Tape Heads, whatever that is. An episode of MacGyver. Gotta like that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, Puppet Master 5. I like it. Something called Feast, which sounds like a... Feast. Patrons locked inside a bar are forced to fight monsters. There you go. Oh, yeah, look at this. This looks something right up our alley. We need to watch this. Henry Rollins is in it. Oh, I'm all about this. This looks terrible. I'm here for it. Piranha 3DD.
Nice.
Yeah. Children of the Corn Runaway. The Terror of Frankenstein. So yeah, you're not wrong. He's in some stuff. He's in some horror, so good for him. All right, right on. Clue. His name is Clue. All right. Anyway, here's 30 seconds of him.
It's that cheap seed you've been buying.
Oh, please, Ken, really?
No, it could be. It got to be a rational explanation. I mean, animals just don't explode into flames for no reason, do they?
That's right.
All right.
Well, it's sure not a leaky gas pipe.
Oh,
You all right?
Oh, it's all right. You set this whole thing up, didn't you?
What are you talking about?
You know damn well what I'm talking about. What'd you use? Firecrackers? You know what he did? He used a goddamn cherry bomb.
Oh, stop.
That's what he did.
Look, you can't talk to me like that.
Okay. I hate everything about that. Like, you know,
Oh my god.
the fact that he goes from is it bird seed? It's bird seed. It's bad bird seed that you're feeding him to. It's a gas leak to it's a cherry bomb, and then the kid just says, "You can't talk to me like that." No, Dad, I didn't intentionally murder our birds. It's you can't talk to me like that, and just storms off. I hated all that dialogue. I'm sorry. It's just I hated all of it.
It's a bit silly.
Yeah, it is. Speaking of a bit silly.
So you going to Lisa's house tomorrow night?
Nope. I'm grounded.
How come?
I think my grandmother down a flight of stairs.
First of all, he's eating the entire scene. He's got food in his mouth. It just makes him awful, like just obnoxious, which I think is the point. But I can't tell if that's real or not. Is that like, did he actually intentionally hurt his grandmother? Like,
No, he's a jokester.
Like, I don't know what's happening. But he's not there, right? I mean, he's not there.
He's grounded. He is grounded.
Yeah, we don't get the real answer.
No. But hell, maybe he did throw his grandma down the stairs.
Who knows? It's so weird. I did miss one. I accidentally skipped over number 2. Here's more of him saying stuff.
Guy gets his rocks off like this. Hangs around queer S&M joints downtown. He likes pretty boys like you. Get out of here.
There you go. Which also annoyed me later when the two of them are complaining about the coach in the locker room, and then the coach punishes them. It's like, you can't punish them for having an opinion. That's not how this
you
works.
could in the 80s.
He's an asshole.
Yeah, I guess you're right. You could in the 80s. All right. If this trigger warning, if you don't like the sound of screeching noises, just skip ahead 15 seconds. Both of your faces. Yeah. So that we got that noise several times throughout the movie, and it, 80s sound effects are always kind of janky. The lightning sounds real janky. Every time he has the glove, it almost sounds like a gun cocking sound.
Oh, it does. The first time I thought somebody had cocked a gun on screen.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, somebody's going to get shot. And it was just his
glove. But every time the glove moves, it made that sound as if it was a gun cock. It made me think they did that on purpose.
Oh yeah.
Like
it's like he's ready.
Yeah.
It gives it even more emphasis.
Yeah.
And that whole running the knives against the rail, that happens in pretty much every movie, right? I mean, I noticed it in the first one, and then we saw it again in this one.
Before, when I was talking about some of the other horror monsters like Freddy, Jason, Cenobites from Hellraiser, things like that, they have their look. Like Jason has his mask, he's got his machete, Camp Crystal Lake, but he's also got an audio signifier too. The key, ma, ma, ma. You always hear that whenever he's around, and so Freddy's got his, that scraping noise.
Right.
Because that shows you he's there without having to show him.
Yeah.
Makes it scarier.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm all for it. I like a good audio cue. I like when I thought it was used very effectively in Paranormal Activity. You get that low rumble that something's about to happen. And every time the first time it happened, it got me all, bothered that every time it happened, my anxiety just increased. Every time I don't know if you listened you probably didn't listen to that episode, Lindsay, but you saw my comments on Twitter that movie bothered me. It really did. It got to me, unlike any movie I've seen in a long time. All right. I mentioned this earlier. So I captured this audio, and then I found in the trivia that this is in fact whale noises. So they used whale noises to emphasize Freddy's dream-like whatever. But almost every time we hear it, it's not in the dream. We're in the real world, which was still weird to me. But the first time I heard that, I thought, that's whale noises. I'm listening to whales. And then, so I wrote it down, but sure enough, that we were listening to whale noises. So there you go. All right. Time for this next part, which is sponsored by...
Do you like cute dogs? Of course you do.
We have a cute dog, and we'll share pictures of her if you listen to our podcast.
We are Two Idiots and a Dog, and we talk about movies and other media.
And post pictures of our dog, Kaiju.
New episodes post weekly on podpage.com/TIAAD Media.
You can also find us on Twitter and Facebook at TIAAD Media, and wherever fine podcasts are sold.
So give us a listen. You wouldn't want to disappoint Kaiju.
And now for some more bad news. Ready?
This is the game. This is the game where we called, Hey, Did You Notice? This is a game where Andrew has found little odds and ends that he found interesting in the movie, and he's going to ask us about them right now. It's a simple game. Lyndsay will go first, play against me. First question obviously goes to Lyndsay. If she gets it right, she gets a point. If she doesn't get it right, I get a chance to steal it. Unfortunately, Llindsay has already played our game and received stickers from me, so in this case, there's no
Just for
reward.
fun.
But it'll be a good time. So, Andrew, take
Just
it
for
away.
bragging rights.
Yeah,
That's right.
Yeah, bragging rights.
Okay, Llindsay. The bus at the beginning of the movie is bus number 201. When they stop to let students off, how many students get off at the first stop?
Oh, damn. I know 3 of them remain. I just don't know how many are on there in the first place. I'll say 8.
All right, Sean, do you have a guess?
The guess is it's truly a guess. 5.
All right. It is 4. There are 3 guys get off, and then a 4th guy gets off with a French horn case, which is probably something you thought I might mention because it's music.
Yeah.
But it's not. But the reason I wanted to ask a question about the bus, we haven't mentioned it. That is England driving the bus.
He is the bus driver.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, Sean, this goes to you.
Yep.
The Walsh's phone has a chalkboard attached to it. How many different messages are written on it throughout the movie?
Dang it.
Oh my god.
That is not what I thought you were going to say.
I
I
know.
wrote down the messages. Oh, because I wrote it down. Where is it? Hold on. It is. Oh, I wrote it down. Gosh, where is it? Where is it? No. Dang it. Where is it? I can't find it.
See, I knew you would be writing down what it said. But I knew you probably wouldn't capture how many different messages there were.
No. Oh, yeah. It was Call Rhonda was one of them. That was the first one I noticed. We're only in the kitchen like 3 times, so I'm going to say there were 3 different messages.
Okay, Llindsay, what do you think?
I'll say 2.
There were 4 different messages.
Oh, the answer was 4 again. Gosh dang it.
Yep. So there were the one that said Rhonda or call Rhonda. There was one that said Zach called, and then there were 2 more that were both different, but I could not make out what they said. But you could tell because the size of the words were different in both of those. But so 4 different messages.
All right.
All right, Llindsay, this goes to you. On the shelf in Jesse's closet where Lisa finds the diary.
The answer is 4.
There's a box for a game. What's it called?
Oh, shoot. I remember noticing it, and I see it in my mind, but I cannot read the letters on the side of the box. What the heck was it? It had something to do with... Did it have something to do with dreaming? I don't know. I have no idea. Parcheesi.
Okay. Sean?
No, I have Yahtzee in my head, but that's not right.
The game was called Probe.
Probe. That's right.
Yeah. Not a game I was familiar with. I had to look it up.
Me
But that
either.
was what it was called. All right, Sean, this is yours. When Jesse opens the drawer on his desk, trying to find out where the scratching noises come from, we see several things in his drawer. An eraser, baseball cards, a slinky, and a die. What number
Oh
is on
my
the die?
god.
You were in a mood today. 4.
Llindsay?
Oh, that was a good chance.
5.
3. 3 was the number on the die.
It should have been 4.
All right.
I got a question I
yeah.
got one. At the opening breakfast table, what's the name of the cereal the sister's eating?
I know.
I know.
I wrote it down.
Fu Manchu, which I thought was a really
Fu Manchus.
Yeah. Kind of a
CW. I was like, oh my god.
I saw that and I was like, please tell me this wasn't real.
No, it was not. No,
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Last question. Whose turn is it now? I've already lost track here.
It goes back to Llindsay.
All right,
Oh.
Llindsay. So Jesse has a sign on his bedroom door. What does it read?
Jesse's door. I got the one on the friend's door.
Caution blind driveway. I have no idea.
All right, Sean.
The friend he goes to visit, where the claws come through the door, that had a sticker on it that said "No nerds."
Right. But Jesse had a sign on his door, though.
I didn't notice the one on his door. I don't know. Keep out.
The reason I noticed it is because it was altered. The sign actually said no out of town checks, but he had taken an I and put it over the E, so it said no out of town chicks.
That's
Yeah.
Jesse, you suck.
Yeah. Okay. Bonus question, since we don't have any points and no one's won. Bonus question. I have 2 bonus questions. So here we go.
You might need a third.
How many you can just shout your name if you know the answer. How many cartons of milk does Grady drink at lunch?
3.
Yes.
I
It
noticed
is 3.
that. I noticed that very vividly. Like, why does he have 3 milks on the thing?
Damn.
The other. Go ahead.
No, and then the last thing I wrote down was what band poster is above Jesse's bed?
I don't know.
Oh God, what was it?
It's a song I actually like quite a bit. A band I like.
The Who.
No.
I don't know.
It was oh God, what was it? Lincoln. I can see it.
Simple Minds.
Oh,
Simple Minds.
Yeah.
Don't you forget about
Don't
it.
you forget? Yeah. That makes sense. So the other trivia that I wrote down were how many Coca-Colas were featured. And
Oh my gosh, so many.
Well, there's one shot where there are 2 on the nightstand, and then he takes a third one where he actually takes his no-dose pill. So I saw on camera vividly there were 3 different Coke cans in the shot. So
yeah, there were more than that because I
there was a
started to
bunch
use
in the
that
background, but I thought maybe you would say how many were like directly on screen or something like that. So those
a lot at the pool party and.
Well, yeah, and then they also had they also had Coke, and then it just said beer.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Yeah,
because it looked like an old school Coors can.
I thought it was Coors too. It looked like a Coors coloring scheme, but it just said beer. That's why I was laughing.
All right, so no points, but Sean, we'll give you the bonus there.
Oh, good. I'm so glad because I noticed how many milks there were. All right, time for this.
Excuse me while I whip this out.
Well, this movie is the second of a franchise, and I thought, well, let's talk about some horror franchises. So we're going to do that as our top 3, and I'm going to let Lyndsay go first.
My top 3, in no particular order, are Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, and Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Okay, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Okay. I've seen parts of the one with Matthew McConaughey.
Yep. I like that one a lot.
Yeah. And
it's just bonkers.
Yeah, it weirded me out, which is why I think I just kind of stayed away from that whole franchise because it was really weird.
I've seen none of those except for what we've done for the podcast.
Yeah.
I got to get out and watch some of that stuff.
There's some good.
Yeah. So my 3 are I did do the Halloween series because I've seen now 4 of them. I've seen Halloween 1, 2, and then Halloween 18 and Halloween Kills. And I do want to do Halloween Ends for the podcast, mainly because we have done we've done the 2 new ones. Well, technically we did Halloween Ends for a companion podcast. We didn't do it for ours. We did it for Measuring the Score, but we've basically done it. So yeah, I do want to do Kills, mainly because it's really divisive.
It is very divisive.
Is that the one that just came out like a couple days ago?
Yeah.
There are some people that really, it's like the Last Jedi of
Yeah.
Star Wars franchise.
Yeah, I've heard
really
mixed
is.
reviews.
Well, but like mixed reviews makes it sound like some people liked it and some people didn't like it. This has been Twitter. It's been either I loved it or I freaking hated it.
Yeah.
I mean, there is very little in between. I haven't seen really anyone that was like, it was fine.
That's kind of where I am with it. I mean, there's stuff I liked about it, and there was stuff that I liked that I wish wasn't in this movie that they had, promoted as being this grand finale between 2 characters. But I'm like, whatever,
Yeah.
I'm not too invested in it.
Yeah, the biggest complaint that I saw was that Michael Myers isn't in the movie very much. And then someone put a tweet that said, Michael Myers is in the first Halloween movie a grand total of 10.5 minutes, and he's in this movie 11 minutes or something like that.
Yeah, he's in this one more than he was in the original. I saw that.
Yeah, but barely, by 20 seconds or whatever.
Yeah.
But like, now I don't know how many. The first movie's not very long. The first movie's only like an hour and a half. So if this movie is like 2 hours and 20 minutes,
no, I don't think. I think it's comparable.
I don't know, but I mean, I guess we can look it up if we care. But anyway, Halloween is my number 2 or my number 3. I wrote number 2 is the Conjuring series. Now I've only seen the first 2, but I liked both of them. I thought they were both really good. This also is a product of, again, kind of like Andrew. I've not seen a lot of horror franchises, but
well, yeah, and I took this question not as what do you think are the best ones.
Yeah.
It's just these are the ones that I always go back to. I may not watch all of the films in the franchise over and over again, but there's definitely films in each one of those that I go back to time and time again.
Yeah, and I also kind of feel like a franchise has to be more than 2. Otherwise, I would have said the Doctor Sleep, because I loved Doctor Sleep so much. I mean, The Shining is good. I don't like it particularly, but it's a really good movie. But Doctor Sleep I love so much that it elevates it. But it's just the 2 movies, so I kind of feel like I can't really use that one.
Yeah.
All right, and my last one is the Evil Dead trilogy. That's a trilogy I have seen.
Mm-hmm.
I've probably watched each of those movies easily 10 times. I really love them.
I haven't seen any of those.
Yeah, we will do that trilogy. I think that'll be a fun thing to do. Like
that's a great trilogy.
Come February or something. Let's do the Evil Dead trilogy, and we'll bring back some of our horror friends. Sorry, Llindsay, you're relegated to nightmare movies. So
I'm on a mission.
Yeah, no, you're here for it. We'll get you back on. So that's my 3. Andrew, what you got?
Well, I have an honorable mention of one that is not really a franchise. There's only 2 of these movies, but I really like them, and I have this thing about being in the water and sharks and fish and things that I can't control. So there's a movie called 47 Meters Down, and then there's another called 47 Meters Down Uncaged or something like that. And essentially these guys are diving, looking at sharks, and they run out of air and they get trapped down there. And it's less horror, but more suspense, I guess. But it is kind of scary. So that's my honorable mention. Number 3, I have a franchise called Wrong Turn, which I just happened to see in the right time in my life. I guess I was in high school, maybe end of high school, when the first one, or when I saw the first one, and it really bothered me. Like, I didn't want to go out exploring in the woods because I thought I might.
Woods.
I thought I might walk up on some people that would eat me. And then I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Okay.
Not a great series by any means, but I read the book in middle school, and the movie came out about the same time. The first one came out about the same time. And so it was kind of special to me. And then last, I have Final Destination.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Another fun one.
Yeah, I've only seen the first 2, but yeah.
Yeah, Final Destination is one that it kind of bothered me for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I never, to this day, every time I get behind a log truck, I have to switch lanes.
That's everyone that has seen that movie.
Yeah.
It always comes right to mind.
Yeah, everyone. My favorite part of that. Yeah, it really did. I mean, like you can just take a picture of a log truck and post it on Twitter, and everyone
people
knows.
know exactly what you mean.
Like, oh yeah, get the F away from that guy. Like, don't you kind of feel bad for loggers? It's like,
I bet they love it. They got the road to themselves. People are just avoiding them.
Yeah, you put that blinker on, it just parts the seas.
Mm-hmm.
You're not wrong. I got this up kind of late on Twitter, so we didn't have a whole lot of interaction there, but that's all right. Our good friend Drew over at Attitude Era Wrestling Review said Saw, Nightmare, and Halloween. But he also wrote, I don't watch horror movies, so I asked who my mom loves. So that's what his mom said. Not making that up. He literally said that's what my mom says. So I like it. And that's it. No one else. That was it. The only other person was, we did have Darren from Nostalgia Cast said, I can't say that I like the second one. He wrote NOES too, so I got nose. It took me a second for my brain to go, Nightmare on Elm Street. But at least it attempts a different aesthetic and story themes. Horror franchises are weird animals, as they lose their bite with every sequel. That said, at least the Nightmares, Paranormal Activities, and Evil Dead switch it up on occasion.
Mm-hmm.
So I like his take there. I thought that was interesting.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you're right. And this movie does kind of do something different. The problem is that I think that the different fails. Because, just, again, you gave us some rules in the first movie, and then it feels like you ignored them in the second one. As opposed to, growing them or whatever. I don't know. Just, it's hard to...
It just kind of it flopped a lot of things on their head, which I thought was interesting because most horror movies, and in the first one you have the concept of the final girl, and she's usually, of her friend group, she's a little more, she's portrayed as a little stronger or smarter, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And in this one they kind of flipped that on its head, where they had a final boy, and he's the inverse of that, where he's a little more emotional and, a little more slight and more vulnerable.
Right. Yeah. I also found it interesting. Yeah. To your point, to add that too, is like in this movie, and this probably goes back to the theme of, the main character kind of being emasculated a little bit because of the kind of the gay undertones or overtones, is that the girl has to kind of be the strong one.
Mm-hmm.
The girl rescues him.
Yeah.
Which in 1985 is kind of forward thinking if you think about it. That like the girl is the hero. I mean, it's not just that she's the final girl. She really is it's like Jamie Lee Curtis just survives. Right? Like she's the final girl because she's just able to survive. Whereas in this case, she actively wins the day, which is kind of neat. So.
Well, yeah, I mean, most final girls, they defeat their tormentor at the end. So I mean, and usually there's some kind of, where they're a little more reserved and more bookish at the beginning. By the end, they're able to find their inner strength. And so there's this transformation that also accompanies the final girl, and that this movie parallels that with what happens to Jessie.
On a different note, don't watch the movie Final Girl. That one sucks.
Yes, it does. Thanks, Karen.
We watched that one. His wife made us watch that one. Abigail Breslin, who is the little girl from Signs, I think.
Yeah.
She's in it. It's the most unrealistic thing you've ever seen. It's like I'm all for the idea, right? The movie is called Final Girl because it's literally that. It's about a girl who was tormented and I think sexually abused or something, and she was taken in by, I don't remember his name, but he was the game creator from the first Hunger Games movie.
Yeah.
Anyway, he's like, hey, I will teach you the ways of survival and, skills so that you can have your revenge. And then she puts herself in a scenario where it's like her versus like these 5 dudes in the woods, and she picks them off one at a time. But the problem is that like Abigail didn't go through any kind of physical training or any kind of martial arts training. She doesn't look like she's a girl that could actually punch somebody and hurt them.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I haven't seen it, so I don't know.
No, I'm just saying, like
Okay.
you see Scarlett Johansson when she's fairly athletic and muscular. So when she punches a dude in the face, you're like, yeah, that looks real. But
Yeah.
you know, Abigail, it looks like my 6-year-old punching somebody. It just doesn't. It's not believable.
She still looks. Even though she is a grown woman, she still looks very much. She looks very young for her age.
Yeah,
Youthful.
yeah, she does. And
Very
like,
youthful looking.
because in the movie she's like 19 or so, and she looks like she's 14. So
And I think maybe they were trying to go for a non-athletic type character, but it still wasn't believable.
it was very unbelievable, and it was just also poorly acted. I mean, I think she's probably a fine actress, but she
Not in that one.
not in that one. All right, time for this.
Wait, what's supposed to happen?
This is where we give this movie a score from 0 to 10, and we will do that now, starting with Lyndsay.
I gave this movie a 6 out of 10.
Okay.
Well, I don't think this is a bad movie. It's not my favorite in the franchise by a long shot. And there's many things in it that I don't like in as far as a horror movie and a Nightmare on Elm Street movie. But I think the whole story around the subtext and for it to feature that kind of character in 1985, and how certain parts of the horror community have really latched onto this film and kind of made it their own, I think is important. And it's just because it wasn't a huge story at the time that it came out. I mean, it was in smaller niche markets, but as far as like people in the Midwest had, they weren't picking up on that kind of thing. The 80s in the Midwest, they weren't catching it, or at least most of us weren't. So for it to have this resurgence and rediscovery because of that, I think is really cool. Because even though this wasn't well accepted at the time, critically especially, that it's nice that it's found a home.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Andrew.
I think it's already mentioned. I think you said it was what, 5.3 or 4 on IMDb.
Something like that.
Having gone into this before we talked about it, I mean, I think maybe you guys have changed my mind about it a little bit, about some of the things that are wrong with the movie. I mean, I did still enjoy it though. I'm gonna go maybe like a 6.8 out of 10.
Wow.
So I think I gave the first one somewhere in the 7s, and
You
this
gave it
one I still like it, but just a few things that we've mentioned. Sorry, my dog is barking. A few things that we've mentioned drop it a little bit lower than the first one for me.
Yeah, you gave the first one a 7.2. All right. I don't think it's a secret. I didn't care for it. I was bored. I was confused. I just wasn't a fan. But it's okay. I'm staring at the score that I gave Morbius, and I'm trying to decide which I would rather watch, this or Morbius. And I think I have to say this, because Morbius was bad. And at least this
It
movie
was really bad.
This movie is trying to do something.
It has some redeeming qualities.
I think it does. And maybe if I watch it again, which I won't, but maybe I'd have a better time with it. IMDb gave it a 5.4. I'm just going to give it a 5. I'm just going to give it a 5. It's okay. It's not great. It's not good. It's not bad. It's just as average as you can get. And that's all right. I mean, it gives us a combined score of 5.93.
Okay. I'm okay with that.
That's right along the same lines as the original Total Recall, for what it's worth.
Okay.
So, all right. Well, so I did the math, Llindsay.
Mm-hmm.
We did the first one. It feels like it wasn't that long ago.
I know, but
it was 18 weeks ago. So
I know.
Was it really?
Yeah, I did the math. It was
Oh my
18 weeks
gosh.
ago.
It was back like in July.
Yeah.
I literally thought it was like a month ago.
Yeah, it was June 29th we recorded. So
Holy crap.
yeah, it feels not that long ago, but yeah, it was a long time ago.
And
Mhm.
we booked this like the next day or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, really. So I'm gonna do some math, and in about 18 weeks, we'll have you back on
Sounds good.
for the third one, whenever that is. It'll fly by. It'll go by real fast. Llindsay,
I think you'll really like the direction that the series takes from here, especially this next one, because last time you had a couple comments about like lucid dreaming and things like that.
Yeah.
I think this next one, which is a lot of people's favorites. I mean, I don't want to hype it up too much.
Sure.
I don't want to do that, but it's a lot of people's favorites, and it gets back to the nightmare aspect of Freddy.
Cool. Well, that's very cool.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. And before I give you an opportunity here, Llindsay, to talk about you and where people can find your stuff, Andrew and I, and potentially Sam, are going to be joining the Hops Geek News podcast to talk about Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
So we're going to get to re-review the first one.
Nice.
So I'm pretty excited for that. But, Llindsay, please tell our listeners where they can find your show and your stuff on YouTube.
Yes, on YouTube, it's just my name, Llindsay Washburn, Llindsay with an A, and you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at the Llindsay Washburn. Find me at any of those places. And on the Bad Movie Night podcast, which we goes up every Thursday.
Very cool. And of course, the links to your Twitter and your socials will be up in the show notes. Llindsay, thank you so much for coming back on the show and talking with us. This was a lot of fun. I'm really glad to have you back on. And looking forward to
fun.
Yeah, looking forward to talking to you again in 18 weeks.
I know. And just the fact that you guys haven't seen these movies and they're movies that I grew up with and loved. It's really interesting to see your point of view. It's very interesting.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you said interesting and not that we're just wrong. I appreciate that.
No, God, no.
So, real quick before we finish up here, Llindsay, have you or Sean? I don't know. You may both have heard of this new movie that is out now on Netflix that is making people like physically ill. It's called Terrifier 2.
Oh yeah, that's a sequel. It's basically okay. You have seen you haven't seen a lot of horror, but you have seen slasher movies. How
Right.
the third act is just people dying.
Right.
This is a whole movie of that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't want to watch it, but
It's
because I am a Halloweenie.
gore. Yeah.
But yeah, I've just heard a lot about people that are getting physically like they're preparing themselves with vomit bags and everything to watch this movie.
Yeah, very, very gory.
Wow. Yeah, it's a clown that kills people, right? Like it's some kind of clown. I just saw some little parts of a trailer. It does look rough. All right. That's it. That's our show. Thank you all so much for listening. We are Cheapseat Reviews. Go to cheapseatreviews.libsyn.com is our website. There you can find links to all of our social medias. There, have a conversation with us on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram, and I will talk to you. If you have a request, that's the best way to do it is through those things. You can email us, but no one emails us anymore, except people that want to try to sell me stuff or get me to buy their promotional hoo-ha. But otherwise, reach out through Twitter or Facebook or whatever. That's it. That's it. That's our show. Next week is our last week in Cheap Scare Reviews, and we are going to be doing The World's End, the finale of the Cornetto trilogy. And we'll be joined by Jen from My Streaming Bubble. I'm very excited to have her on the show because I've been on her show twice, and it was a lot of fun. So, On behalf of Lindsay and Andrew, this is Sean saying thank you all so much for listening, and we will see you next week for The World's End.
This is Cheapseat Reviews.